How's it going, guys? So man, I wanted to talk some loose talk about the upcoming fight between Nate Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev. Give you a little bit of my prediction, but also my thoughts on the Diaz brothers and in particular this time Nate Diaz. I saw his interview that he had a one-on-one with the Brett uh, Okamoto guy, and man, I always feel that I always felt that most of the guys in the MMA media don't really know how to interact with the Diaz brothers. Um, they don't know how to interview them. It's I don't know. It always feels awkward. Um, they don't know how to ask the questions really well, and just because overall, it's not all their fault. Overall, the Diaz brothers, they're awkward themselves. They're so damn real. They're real. They're not that well spoken. If we're honest, they're not well spoken. They're outspoken, but they're not well spoken. They're not that eloquent to so they express a lot of thoughts, but they don't do it in the best way. And this one in particular. I mean, I remember this an interview that Nick Diaz had back in the day, not too long ago. I think about a year ago, with Hawani, and that interview was a train wreck. I think Nick Diaz was drunk and or drugged or high or something in between, and it was just a mess. And then he started blabbing on and going on and on. It's just Nick Diaz in particular. He's not easy to interview at all, man. But I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan of the Diaz brothers, specifically Nick Diaz since his Strikeforce days. I love that fight that he had with Paul Daly. I think that's one of the best fights I ever seen in MMA. I never forget that fight. That fight was a um, action pack, a barn burner, man. Back when Paul Daly and Nick Diaz were in their prime, two young bucks, two young bulls, and they went at it, and it only lasted one round. It was just an amazing fight. So I recommend you look up that fight. That fight is just stuff of legends in the MMA sport. So back to Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, he's scheduled to fight Khamzat Chimaev this upcoming weekend in UFC 279, and it's kind of a controversial fight because Khamzat Chimaev is the wolf. He's the up and coming killer. He went the last fight he had. He went toe to toe with Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns um, is a solid number two welterweight in the ranks, and Chimaev's rise to the top has been so quick that he was already fed to Gilbert Burns, and he passed the test, man. Gilbert Burns uh, made him look human, and it was just an action-packed fight, bloody fight, back and forth. It was a war, and Khamzat Chimaev proved that although he looked human, although he looked more vulnerable, he didn't look as invincible as when he started during the 2020 pandemic year. He still passed the test. He defeated Gilbert Burns. No easy task at all. Gilbert Burns he's a live dog, man. He's good everywhere, on the stand up, on the ground. His jiu-jitsu is sharp as fuck. Just just the type of a good test, a good test. So he's young. Khamzat Chimaev is young. He's a young buck. He's coming up, and he's a star in the rising, and Nate Diaz is not a star in the rising. Nate Diaz is already a star. He's a legit original gangster. He's basically Nate has basically, if you think about it, real Well, he has gone through maybe three generations of fighters. I mean, the guy was fighting back in the day, it's just uh, I remember a fight he had when he was fighting at 155. He ventured into, at that time, 170, and he got ragdolled by Rory McDonald. I remember that fight, man. It was just that he got killed because Rory McDonald was an up and coming wrestler back then, and he used his wrestling to ragdoll Nate Diaz, who at the time was he's still young. He was still young, he was up and coming, and yeah, Nate Diaz is one of those fighters. He was already, that he was switching between weight classes already. He was doing it way before it was popular. Now it's popular, and a lot of fighters get praised for it. But the Diaz brothers were doing it. They were doing it way, way a long, long time ago. Just like a lot of other original gangster fighters, have been doing it, and they weren't praised for it. Competing in two weight classes. Conor McGregor wasn't the first one to do that. I mean, look up BJ Penn. Look up Matt Hughes and fighters like this who you know they were doing it first. I think BJ Penn even fought a heavyweight once, or light heavyweight. He was fighting Lyoto Machida. There's a lot of original gangsters, and Nate Diaz fought a lot of these fighters, and he, in this interview, it was kind of a little bit sad. It was kind of introspective. I like that he took control of the interview. Basically, he just started saying whatever came to mind. Okamoto was smart enough to, like Helwani, he backed off, and he just let Nate Diaz express himself. He did ask good questions. Okamoto did. And Nate Diaz shed a lot of light on things, behind the scene things. And one of the things about Nate is that he keeps it real. He's not all that well spoken, but he tells you like it is. He says a lot of truth, but the Diaz brothers managed to be truthful and at the same time sound delusional. They have that. They have that impeccable way of doing that. They can tell you he tells you, I'm the champ, I'm the best fighter in UFC, and the way it's so matter of fact. That's because when it sounds so matter of fact like that, it's because that person is actually telling you. He's not pretending. He's telling you what he feels. He feels that he's the best fighter in UFC, and you could see that confidence oozing out of him, and he said it in this interview. And then he's talking about this upcoming fight with Khamzat Chimaev, where you could tell if you read between the lines that he's not, he doesn't think is just that it's fair to be building up this up and coming young buck, young star, young killer. And because Nate Diaz is basically on his way out of the UFC, because it's his last fight in his current UFC contract, from what I read. And I don't think he has intentions of staying. I mean, he has been dealing with a lot of bullshit, what he perceives as bullshit, and what I also agree sometimes. Yeah, they have put up with a lot of bullshit. The Diaz brothers have, Nate Diaz specifically. He's also gotten lucky because he has made a lot of money. Those fights he had with Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, man. The first fight he defeated Conor McGregor, and then that rematch was huge, and he made good dough, man. He made good dough, and I'm glad, because he deserves it. And you could tell that, behind the scenes, Nate Diaz has been chill. He has kids. I think he's married already, even though he doesn't speak about it that much. He has kind of a married life now. He's a family man, and he's more centered than Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz kind of went the other way. Partying way too much, and I don't think he's settled down yet. I could be wrong. I'm not really into the details, but from what I read several in other interviews and stuff, Nate Diaz has more or less settled down. And what I admire about them also is that they are loyal people. I like the fact that their boxing trainer, they stuck around with him. He still trains them. You can still see him in the videos and in the in the uncensored programs they do in YouTube and all that stuff, and you could see old friends still hang around. They still train with Jake Shields, with Gilbert Melendez, and he's always speaking well about his older brother Nick Diaz, giving him credit for building him up, for making him the fighter that he is, and all that shit. I eat it up, man. I admire all that shit. I admire loyalty. I admire that type of integrity, and you could tell that from a lot of things I've seen, that Nate Diaz sticks around with you. When he looks out for you, he looks out. When he's got your back, he's got your back. And when he's not fighting, when he's not being confrontational, he's just a regular guy. And a lot of interviewers don't know how to interact with regular guys like that. They interviewers especially in the MMA media, especially those inside the UFC, who are used to kind of not letting out, not afraid to ask real questions. They don't ask the real questions. And the Diaz brothers, they are perfect. They are perfect fighters to ask, those hard questions, because they will answer them. In the interview, I particularly like when he was being asked, Nate Diaz was being asked about GOATs, and Brett mentioned John Jones, and he was like, out of the question, saying that, John Jones was out of that GOAT talk because he cheated. He was busted for cheating several times, and it was so matter of fact. It was so honest. I love that, and I think all fighters should be that honest. I prefer fighters that are that honest, outspoken like that. I also like that the ones that are more subdued, like Fedor Emelianenko and fighters. I'm not much into the dramatic ones, the pretentious ones like Colby Covington and Conor McGregor. I prefer fighters like this, like Nate Diaz. And but yeah, man, you could also tell in Nate Diaz's face. I was watching, and the years. You could see the years of punishment, of fighting. On his face, the scars. He's looking older. He's talking wiser, and I don't think he's really looking forward to fighting Khamzat Chimaev, like I mentioned, just because he's on his way out, and he really doesn't want to build up a star on his way out. And UFC is that way. UFC, once you sign that contract, because that's another thing, UFC is a company, and the deal is that they will make money off of you, and you will make money off of their platform. And the Diaz brothers have been doing it for a long time, but they also got in raw deals. Nick Diaz was suspended for 5 years just for a pot, and basically he lost the best years of his fighting life. He's not the same guy anymore. His youth is gone. And then you have Nate Diaz, who, yes, he's gotten good opportunities, but yeah, at the same time, he he's you could tell that he hasn't been happy in the company for a while now, and the Diaz brothers, this is all they know how to do, and I can relate because when maybe you didn't have that, the opportunity to get a great education, and you get into fighting, and that's how you make your living, and that's the only way you make your living. That's the only thing you know how to do. Um, that's what the Diaz brothers are. They are a personification of fighters. That's what they do. That's what they know how to do. And when they were younger, they signed these contracts that they were not lucrative contracts. Uh, they weren't. Back then, back in the day, UFC used to pay them chump change, and yeah, I'm sure they have made a lot of money, but the UFC makes more money than they make off of their names, and off of their fights, off of their personalities and stuff. And the Diaz brothers have had a lot of offers to venture outside of MMA and go into boxing and maybe go box uh, um, Jake Paul, for example. And UFC, the contracts are restrictive. They don't allow that to happen. And these are things that piss off the Nate Diaz, and these are things that they carry for a long time inside of them. And yeah, it's I was just I wanted to have this loose make this loose video, talk and rant about this, about the Diaz brothers, and how much I admire them, and also how I feel bad about some of the things they've gone through. But I believe that Nate Diaz has been smarter than Nick. I think he has been smarter with his money, and I think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna stay with UFC. I don't think he's gonna stay with UFC. I think he has a lot of projects in his mind. Maybe face Jake Paul at some point in time, and make a lot of money doing that, and maybe sign with another promotion, with one fighting championship or Bellator or something like that, and just uh, do more, have more freedom, because UFC, they don't have the freedom they want to have. That's what I have gathered uh, for a long time now, and yeah, you could tell Nate Diaz is just he's just going through emotions in this fight, with this upcoming fight he's gonna have at UFC 279 against Chimaev. I predict that Chimaev is gonna win. Sadly, I would love to, see Nate Diaz pull up an upset and just leave UFC and give them the middle finger and leave with a huge win like that. That would be awesome. But Chimaev, man, he's a monster. He has proven that he has the gas tank, that he has the ground game, the wrestling, the grappling, the stand up. His stand up might not be that refined, but he's quick, he's fast, he has a chin, and yeah, I think that he bloodies up Nate, the fight will be stopped. It will be a technical knockout or something along those lines. So I have Shimaya winning. That doesn't mean that I'm not rooting for Nate Diaz. I am, and but I realize what the different stages they're in. Nate Diaz he's older now. He's not the same fighter. He's not the young fighter that he used to be. But in MMA, anything can happen. So I think that he might pull off. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I don't see it happening, but I'm not going to be surprised um, if he does pull up an upset and catches Chimaev and knocks him out or something along those lines, especially if it goes the distance, because the Diaz brothers are known for taking a lot of punishment. Unfortunately, they're known for that, but they are that tough. They're like zombies. They keep on coming, they keep on coming, and they have weaponized cardio pretty well. And Nate Diaz is there, so it's gonna be a very interesting fight. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts. I just wanted to talk about them, and yeah, looking forward to this fight. But that's my prediction, and those are my thoughts on the latest on Nate Diaz, and the Diaz brothers overall. How much of a fan I've been. Sorry for going on so long, but I just wanted to speak freely and express my thoughts on 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 fighters like this, and I hope to do more of this type of videos and speak about the happenings and the dramas and the things that go on. Some interviews that I watch, I love watching interviews. um, and this was a very interesting, intriguing interview that Nate Diaz just had with Brett Akamoto. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you already done so, thanks a lot. Thanks for following, and peace. All right, thank you.